Good evening. Today we're going to be doing a slightly different kind of breakbeat tune in the style of Bicep. Let's get into it.
And I keep falling.
And there we have it. Let's run it from the top.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back to when we had it just like that, had it right on track. I've never had thoughts that control me until something bad left me so lonely, and I want it back. I want the old me, try to forget, but things just remind me. There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back to when we had it just like that, had it right on track. And I keep falling in this darkness, and there's no one to light it up, to brighten up, yeah. And I keep falling in this darkness, and there's no one to light it up, to brighten up, yeah. And I keep falling.
Right, let's run through it. First off, we are at 138 beats per minute and we are in F sharp minor. And I get a lot of people asking me where I find the acapellas for these kind of songs that I do. And so for this song, because I wanted to do a song in the style of Bicep, I went to Bicep's Spotify page and I had a little listen through to give me some references. And there was this one song called Water, and it was featuring a girl called Clara Lassan. And I went on her profile, and the acapella that I pulled for this song is this one, In the Darkness. I just used a vocal remover AI thing online, and here it is.
There's a million things I could say.
Whenever I'm using acapellas like this, I always put it in a different key because it helps to change the vibe up a little bit, and also for me it helps avoid YouTube copyright. So we are starting off with an intro Reese. As I say, we're in F sharp minor, so we're just hanging on the F sharp.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really.
And that Reese is just a trap Reese that I found in Serum. Sounds amazing.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that.
And then we're starting off with a very simple offbeat hat. In this kind of genre, they're using less claps and more snares, so much more live sounding snares. So I've got this snare that reminds me of the Fred Again song Cammy, so I've called it Cammy snare.
But you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back to when we had it just like that, had it right on track. I've never had thoughts that control me until something bad.
So in our first section, we're hanging on this F sharp, so it creates a little bit of tension, so there's no melodic movement at all. And then as we go into this second section, when we change the bass, it has much more impact because we're used to this F sharp is the only melodic information we're getting. And then once we go down to this E, then it becomes really impactful.
Had it just like that, had it right on track. I've never had thoughts that control me until something bad left me so lonely, and I want it back. I want the old me, try to forget, but things just remind me.
So this chord progression is just the 1 to the 7 to the 6, back to the 7, and then back up to the 1. So it's a little bit of a loop, so it feels like once you come back to this E, you want to go back up to this 1. So it's a nice little sort of loopy chord progression. And then on top of that, to add a little bit of melodic variance, we've got these stutter chords, which are just playing the root notes that we're playing on the bass down here. And then we're playing the third on top of that, an octave higher. And that is just a Nexus preset that I found called We Atlas in Plugged. And I've got this little layer just doing the thirds on top of that, which is a really simple patch that I made. Basic MG. We've got this envelope 2 affecting the cutoff, and then this LFO 1 is affecting the coarse pitch just a little bit to give it that tiny bit of attack, a little bit of delay and reverb, and that is it. And then on top of that, to give a little bit of ear candy, we've got this siren. Again, just a patch I found, modulated it a little bit, so we've got a pitch bend going up to give it that whoop, and then I've got these little distorted, just peppered in there again, just to give a little bit of ear candy, and then this. Just tiny little bits of ear candy that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on, but it's going on in the background and it's just, creating a little bit of a vibe. So if I just play all those synths together. And then we come into our next section.
Try to forget, but things just remind me. There's a million things I could say.
I'm just introducing this little break here. And then we just put these little pauses in there just to create a little bit of sort of dramatic effect. And the rhythm really works in line with the vocal. So it's taking this little bit out. There's a little overhanging gap where the vocal is being played. Feels like the drums and the vocals all together are sort of rhythmically in balance. So we just listen to that again.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back.
So little gaps, as I always go on about, super impactful. So I would definitely recommend doing something like that. And then we've got this little break snare in there. So it's just a snare that I've taken out of a break, and we're just creating a little bit of a groove with that. And with the offbeat notes, so these are our downbeats, so where our snare would normally hit. And then these bits are the sort of offbeat ghost notes. And I've taken the velocity down a little bit just to make it feel a little bit more human. And then on this second one here, I've taken the pitch up. So the pitch of that snare is different to the pitch of this C. So again, it just creates a little bit of variation with that sound.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back,
And then this section, we've just added a little lead. It's exactly the same patch that I made, and we're just holding on the C sharp, which is just the fifth of the F sharp, which is our root. It's a really simple patch, but it gives a really nice sort of analog feel to it, so it lends itself to Bicep kind of tunes.
There's a million things I could say, but you never really knew that, but you never really knew I felt this way. Wanna take it back to when we had it just like that, had it right on track. And I keep falling in this darkness, and there's no one to light it up, to brighten up, yeah.
And as we go into this build section, we change the Reese. So I've just got two saw waves, as I normally do. One fine-tuned up slightly, one fine-tuned down slightly. And we've got this envelope 2, which is affecting the cutoff, so it gives it a little bit of a stab at the start of the sound. And then we've got a bit of distortion, a bit of chorus, and a bit of reverb. And then we're returning back to this F sharp, where we're just hanging on the F sharp for this whole build, again, to create the tension before we get into that drop. And another thing I've done to keep it interesting, because we're just hanging on that one note, I've automated the cutoff of this filter. This filter here, we are changing the automation as it goes on. So we're slowly opening it up. So we're giving it a little bit of a journey and then slowly opening it up as we go into that drop. And then just to add a little bit of energy as we go into that drop, I've just added this little top. Just a little sort of garagey shuffle. Just helps us introduce a little bit of energy before that drop comes in. And then we come back with this little almond break. And then, as usual, we've got a little bit of silence before the drop to make it a little bit more impactful.
Brighten it up, yeah. And I keep falling. And I keep falling.
So with our kick, normally if we were doing a house song, we would do 4 to the floor like this. But this time we are slightly changing it up. So we've got our kick on the 1, and then just before this second beat here where we'd normally have our other kick, we've just pushed it forward, and then we have another kick halfway through these 2 points. So if we look at the numbers, we're on 1, and then we're on 1.24, and then we're on 1.33, and then that pattern just carries on as we go. And the tops of our drums are pretty similar to a normal house kind of vibe. So we've got our snare on the offbeat. And I've got this little verb clap, which it's got no attack on it, and it's got a heavy reverb on it. So it's just one channel that's giving a lot of sort of ambience to that snare. And I've got this little clicky top on the top of that we had in before. And then the 808 core kit in Ableton, I've just added some snare drums and an open hi-hat. And then a little swingy top. And then an open hat. And I found this shaker loop that I really liked the swing of. Sounded really good, but I felt like it needed sort of another layer of that. So what you can do is, if you have a drum rack open and you take the audio from a loop that you like, so in this instance I really like the shuffle of this loop. As you can see, this would be its sort of normal unshuffled position, but it's really swung behind the beat. So you can just take that and press Option, hold it, and insert it onto a MIDI track, and you press drums, and then you get that exact same swing, and it will also do the velocity difference on there as well. I did that and selected a shaker that I really like the sound of. So now we've got 2 layers of that same loop that we found in audio, but also in MIDI as well. And then all the drums together. With our synths, we have this stutter chord that's coming back. Doing the exact same notes as we had before. And then we've just introduced this. So the rhythm is slightly different, but it just gives it a little bit of energy. And this is a Nexus patch that I found called UK Pikes in Plucked. And then on top of that, we have our lead. So it's made up of 2 layers, and our first lead is this serum patch that I made. Super simple. It's just a noise from an Evolution of Sounds vocal shot. So that is all that it's doing. And to get the trance gate, I've used this trance gate by Kilohertz, which is a free plugin, which I'd highly recommend. I think this is the first preset that is there when you open the plugin. So super simple. And then I've got a bit of OTT and a bit of reverb on there. And then we've got a second layer, which is, again, another vocal. The original that I pulled out sounds like this. And I just took that first bit and cut it up and pitched it. And we've done the exact same. So we're using this Kilohertz trance gate, doing the exact same rhythm, and then those 2 together I've processed a little bit. So I've got a Valhalla shimmer on there to give it a massive reverb, compressed it a little bit together, and a bit of OTT, and that is pretty much it. And to make it a little bit more interesting, I've added some little pitch bends on this lead as well. So again, makes it feel a little bit more human and a little bit less static. And then our bass in that drop is, again, very simple. We've got a PWM MG, which is down here, and then the basic MIDI. And we've got the fine tune down by 7, this fine tune up by 7. And then we've just got a little bit of hyperdimension. EQ is doing nothing, a little bit of compression, and that is it. And then same with that lead, we've done some little bits of pitch bend, again, just to give it a bit more life, make it a bit more interesting.
And I keep falling. And I keep falling.
And then to transition into that second half of the drop, we've just got a little sort of fill with a cowbell, with the same swing that we took from this loop. So with our shaker, I've just copied that over. So we have the same swing. And then into our second bit of the drop, I've added a octave above lead. So really crunchy. This is just a patch that I found, I think. Yeah, Boombox Cartel lead. Octave above, and just helps sort of elevate that second half of the drop in comparison to this first half.
And I keep falling. And I keep falling.
And there we have it, Bicep, what an unbelievable duo. I know this is slightly off track to what I normally do, and I find it really difficult to do something in between house where it's like 125 to 130-ish, and then drum and bass, which is 170 plus. That breakbeat stuff in between I find really difficult to do, especially with the drums, to get the rhythm right. So if you guys have any tips on how we can get that sounding better, I would very much appreciate it, because it's definitely something that I want to work on a little bit more, because I do love this style of music a lot. So give me a shout. And also, if you have not subscribed, please do, and like the video, because that genuinely helps me a lot, and I always am reticent to ask to do that, but why the hell not? I should ask, so please do. It helps immensely. And thank you for watching. I do hope it has helped. And once again, love to your mothers.